The intercession of the Theotokos, of the protection of our Most Holy Lady Theotokos and Ever Virgin Mary, known in Church Slavonic as Pokrov, and in Greek as Sképē, is a feast of the Mother of God celebrated in the Eastern Orthodox and Byzantine Catholic churches. The feast celebrates the protection afforded the faithful through the intercessions of the Theotokos. In the Russian Orthodox Church it is celebrated as the most important solemnity after the 12 Great Feasts. The feast is commemorated in Eastern Orthodoxy as a whole, but by no means as fervently as it is in Russia, Belarus and Ukraine. The Slavic word Pokrov, like the Greek Sképē, has a complex meaning. First of all, it refers to a cloak or shroud, but it also means protection or intercession. For this reason, the name of the feast is variously translated as the Veil of Our Lady, the protecting veil of the Theotokos, the protection of the Theotokos, or the intercession of the Theotokos. It is often translated as Feast of the Intercession. With great reserve, the Pokrov icon may be related to the Western Virgin of Mercy image, in which the Virgin spreads wide her cloak to cover and protect a group of kneeling supplicants. Tradition. According to Eastern Orthodox sacred tradition, the apparition of Mary the Theotokos occurred during the 10th century at the Blakeney Church in Constantinople, where several of her relics were kept. On Sunday, October 1st at 4 in the morning, St. Andrew the Blessed Fool for Christ, who was a Slav by birth, saw the dome of the church open and the Virgin Mary enter, moving in the air above him, glowing and surrounded by angels and saints. She knelt and prayed with tears for all faithful Christians in the world. The Virgin Mary asked her Son, Jesus Christ, to accept the prayers of all the people entreating him and looking for her protection. Once her prayer was completed, she walked to the altar and continued to pray. Afterwards, she spread her veil over all the people in the church as a protection. Saint Andrew turned to his disciple, St. Epiphanius, who was standing near him, and asked, "Do you see, brother, the Holy Theotokos praying for all the world?" Epiphanius answered, "Yes, Holy Father, I see it and am amazed." According to the primary chronicle of St. Nestor the chronicler, the inhabitants of Constantinople called upon the intercession of the Mother of God to protect them from an attack by a large Persian army. According to Nestor, the feast celebrates the destruction of this fleet sometime in the 9th century. An icon of the Virgin Mary praying, surrounded by people, was said to be kept in the Blakeney Church. It is said to reproduce the events as St. Andrew saw them that day. Feast and icon. The Feast of the Intercession commemorating the miracle is a religious holy day, a feast day of the Byzantine Rite, and is held annually on October 14, or October 1st according to the Julian calendar. It is served as an all-night vigil, with many of the same elements as occur on great feasts of the Theotokos. However, Pokrov has no afterfeast. Some, but not all, regions of the Russian Federation celebrate the Feast of Intercession as a work holiday. In Ukraine, it is celebrated on October 14th as a religious, national, and family holiday. The Mother of God as the intercessor and patron became firmly established among Ukrainians. Princes, kings, Cossacks, and hetmans chose the Mother of God as the patroness and protectress. An icon in the National Art Museum of Ukraine shows the Virgin Mary protecting the Ukrainian Cossack hetman Bohdan Khmelnytsky. By decree of the Ukrainian president, October 14th, Pokrov, a feast day, was promulgated also as Ukrainian Cossack Day. The icon of the feast, which is not found in Byzantine art, depicts in its upper part the Virgin Mary surrounded by a luminous aureole. She holds in her outstretched arms an Irarian veil, which symbolizes the protection of her intercession. To either side of her stand numerous saints and angels, many of whom are recognizable to the experienced churchgoer: the apostles, John the Baptist, St. Nicholas of Myra, etc. Below, street, Andrew the Fool for Christ is depicted pointing up at the Virgin Mary and turning to his disciple Epiphanius. Usually, the veil with which the Virgin protects mankind is small and held either in her outstretched hands or by two angels, though a version similar to the Western European Virgin of Mercy image, with a larger cloak covering people, is found in some Eastern Orthodox icons. October 1st is also the feast of Saint Romanus the Melodist, so he is often depicted on the same icon. Even though he and St. Andrew lived at different times, he is often shown directly below the Virgin Mary, standing on a bema, or on a cathedra, chanting from a scroll. The scroll represents the various kontakia which have been attributed to him. The feast day of St. Andrew, the Fool for Christ, falls on the following day, October 2nd. Churches dedicated to Pokrov. Many Orthodox churches worldwide are named after this feast. The first churches dedicated to Feast of Pokrov appeared in Russia in the 12th century. Probably the most famous Russian church named for the feast day is St. Basil's Cathedral, Red Square, Moscow, which is officially entitled the Church of Intercession of Our Lady, that is on the moat, or shortly, Intercession Cathedral upon moat. The other one is the Church of Intercession in Boglubo, near Vladimir on the Nerl River. Both churches are on the United Nations World Heritage List, the latter as part of the site-wide monuments of Vladimir and Suzdal. There is also a Church of the Intercession of the Holy Virgin in St. Petersburg. Other notable churches commemorating this feast are Intercession of the Holy Virgin Russian Orthodox Church in Manchester, England, and the Russian Orthodox Church of the Intercession of the Holy Virgin in Amp St. Sergius in Glen Cove, New York. St. Mary the Protectress in Underquad, New York is a notable Ukrainian Orthodox church dedicated to the Feast of Pokrova. A great many Ukrainian churches are also named in honor of this feast in Canada. In North Wales there is the Church of the Holy Protection at 10 Manord Road, Blaenau where the liturgy is celebrated partly in Welsh, also English, Greek, and Church Slavonic. The church, under Archimandrite Daniel, is under the OMA for the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of the Diocese of Western Europe under the Ecumenical Patriarch. Previously it belonged to the Belarusian Autocephalous Orthodox Church, and previous to that to the Diocese of Sorozh of the Moscow Patriarchate. Bibliography. The article was used for iconography description. Basil Luria. The Feast of Pokrov, its Byzantine origin, and the cult of Gregory the Illuminator and Isaac the Parthian in Byzantium.